Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates.
Continue. Today has been a little calm as they went for elections of flag bearers for local government, but the hangover of last week is still on. The violence, the irregularities, the bloodshed, and the murders. What's all beneath it? The president has come out to say, well, it's time to crack the whip on all the errant officers and the beneficiaries of this violence. But will he walk the talk is one of the questions that we'll be digesting tonight. Besides, we'll also be looking at how the party looks in the face of all this quagmire. Joining me tonight is Honorable Ssemuju Ibrahim Nganda, Secretary General of the PFF, and the man who's been at the center of the storm, Honorable Ssekikubo, Member of Parliament, Remiaga County, is also joining us tonight. Happy to have you. Honorable Dombo, the Director of Communications at the NRM Secretariat, is also a guest tonight, together with the man of the dictionary, Honorable Fred Mukasa Mbidde, Deputy President of the Democratic Party. Good to have all of you, and a very good evening. We'll also be speaking to Dr. Tanga Odoi, the chairperson of the NRM's Electoral Commission, who will be speaking to us from Jinja. Well, I'll begin with you, Honorable Ssekikubo. How are you contending with the loss?
Well, thank you, and good evening, viewers. The loss, the way I take it, is still temporal, in a sense that the party has opened up an avenue for the aggrieved to be able to petition the NRM Electoral Commission, and if that petition is processed, then we are still confident that that victory grabbed from us, grabbed from me, snatched from me, will be restored. And number two, I'm buttressed in this by the communication of the chairman of the party, President Museveni, who has given all the assurances, and the communication he made, the letter he wrote, is on all fours with what transpired in Remiaga. So I don't see how that election can be upheld. I'm pretty confident that indeed, when all is said and done, justice will be restored. Our victory that was snatched from us will be handed back to me as the winner.
When you look at the machinations that were applied or that could have led to your loss, do you imagine whoever snatched your victory left any traces that can help you to recover it?
Yes, because really the processes had been set out, foolproof, in a sense that we had an electoral process that was well planned. You had the voters register, you had the declaration of results forms, you had other paraphernalia that are used at the polling station. These were delivered, and the mode of voting was clear, because voting was by way of lining up behind a candidate, behind a portrait, behind your candidature. I mean the candidate that was being voted. So all of that was laid down well. But the details now is where the problem was, where people went out of their way to round up sub-county registrars, to again write new DRA forms, that are not consistent with king and what had been supplied and delivered at the polling station. So it is easy for you to identify an alien material from that particular polling station. But in this particular case, Mr. Njala Kagwa, we were confronted with a very horrendous violence that was unprecedented in Remiaga. You remember we held our elections on 17th this month. But earlier on 26th, at a political rally, there was no groups fighting, but we were invaded and attacked by the army. And one Sembus Fred was shot dead. And myself, I survived with a bullet wound. And some other young man called Moses Twengana also suffered a gunshot wound on his head. So when now you bring in the aspect of the military, it can be understandable when people fight, supporters fight, that can happen. But now when you bring in the third element of the military, the army, because we are at Chirega, we were having a peaceful rally, we are seeing people off, then they came driving in a military lorry, H4DF 3329. And without asking anything, they started shooting at us. And this young man stood in front of me, telling me, Honorable Bagenda Kuta, they are going to kill you. They want to kill you. They've come for you. And as I was pushing him away, I didn't realize the bullet had picked my finger. And that is the bullet that struck him through his chest, and he died. And the army, the soldiers were commanded by a Lieutenant Ziwa. Even on the 17th, the same Ziwa was in Remiag. He shot at us, shattering glasses of my vehicle. So the level of impunity, I don't know. When you see all this, the way we all know the strictness with which the president handles the military, the strictness with which the president handles the misuse of a gun to kill innocent civilians. This is different, because the killer, the one who pulled the trigger, is still present in Remiag and active even today. Today they were...
Well, I could hold you there. Honorable Mbidde, when you listen to Honorable Theodore Ssekikubo's narrative and then correlate it with the president's two missives, in barely a week, the president has written twice about the irregularities that defined the NRM party primaries. What kind of picture do you get?
First of all, at the risk of finding Honorable Ssekikubo by the wayside of the sub-judice rule, because he already has a petition before a tribunal relating to matters that require, of course, dispensing with both evidential and legal burden. Now, discussing it here, obviously, your merits before, of course, replies are given to your own petition might equally be injured. But I can safely say, I have looked at the president. We can give this a general picture, because at the conclusion of the NRM primaries, almost 60% of the true general elections have been considered. And these are things that people don't even want to tell the public. But in Uganda, we are being run by an autocratic single party procedure. Because autocracy is generally in terms of three major limbs. It is either bossism, which is based on one single party that leads the whole country, or it can be a military junta, or a military strongman. Now, we don't have that military strongman, and it is not characterized as a junta per se. So this one is bossistic in nature. It is one major party that in terms of silencing all the others, it is the protagonist of politics in Uganda. So the president, the NRM is choreographing its own next parliament, next majority. Honorable Ssekikubo could be suffering. I do not know, I have not given myself an assessment as to whether his problems are actually party-sponsored. But I find him suffering from something called the eminence gurus. You know, these are persons that wield a lot of influence and power, but without formal appointment. He could be a victim of such people, because I saw a lot of the campaigns that took place.
Who are they?
The eminence gurus.
Okay.
These are people that I found decampaigning him, wielding a lot of authority and power, but without formal appointment. If you look at their positions of authority in Uganda, at least within the hierarchies, you don't find them. But they are extremely powerful, can even cause, of course, the reshuffles of RDCs, they can cause the reshuffle of DPCs, they can, and these are persons that actually were against him. What the president is trying to do is to begin to wake up and beginning to answer. I find the legal advice that he was given appropriate. It was correct. That first of all, an independent establishment like a tribunal be established to adjudicate on matters, because in an election conducted by the chairperson of EC, it is presumed under the law that he conducted an election and even declared, either directly or indirectly.
Okay.
So he would not be the one.
Imagine that the president, in a way, is giving his judgment as this election was a complete mess.
Well, I mean, that is part of the arguments that my brother should rely on, because that is evidential in nature. If a person that is fed on with a lot of intelligence concludes that it was a mess, any of the affidavits, of course, designed for that purpose should include even statements, annexures of a statement by the president. In Uganda, at least we are led by a proper legal principle of nemo judex in causa sua, that you cannot be a judge in your own cause. I do not expect Professor Tango Doi to participate in adjudicating matters relating to election irregularities in an election he has conducted. I have seen him giving a few speeches, and I think that is not appropriate. Yet I can give him credit that he has attempted to hold an election throughout the country. It is not really easy. We have seen how many times LOC elections have been postponed. Now, if his has been conducted, in my opinion,
Shabba as it looks.
Yes, it is oblique, completely convoluted. But I can tell you that at least every area has had a declaration of a winner. So if he is only going to consider petitions now, we in fact have to be told how many petitions there are. I give him credit. We need to do that, by the way, because I do not find a political party that has done this succinctly to that level. But also,
but when you read deeply between the lines of the president missives, could he have vaguely communicated something about the weaknesses of the secretariat, the failure of the secretariat to rein in?
No, the president is being, I do not want to use a lot of words, but there is what we call chichi and ladida. He is being pretentious. I am not sure that he is serious over what he is saying in this regard. But he is covering against sentiments of persons like Honorable Ssekikubo, so that they can now rest assured and wait for a result. Because you see, the president is a rebel. He has led the country, but he knows that the safest means by which you can have safety is by providing a safe passage to any problem. Now, the safest passage he can provide for such animosity that has arisen amongst the rank and file of his NRM leaders, including ministers that have gone to Taiwan, is to be part of them. Because you see, the president will always want to be, if you find him addressing rallies, you might think he's a member of the opposition. He will go and ask people, how can such roads exist in a country that I govern? Now, you find that he himself, he sounds like he's a member of the opposition. And that is his character. It has been his character almost ever since he came to power. When he came to power, he argued that how can, you see, the problems of our country is that, you see, people have chosen to take power by the gun. Then people have chosen to stay forever. People have done this and that. He keeps arguing. In fact, his arguments, the templates can even be used by the opposition. But he's the one governing. There is no way I am going to lead a country full of corruption. That is not me. Now, you find that even the opposition can identify with his speeches. They can read them, and they get elected. That is what I hope. That is not what he is doing.
So he's simply offering comic relief too.
It is, because clearly what has been done, a tribunal has been constituted. All we have been instructed we shall all appear before it. But it doesn't look like it is going to be so deadly against those that have been found by the wrong side of the coin.
Thank you.
Yes.
Honorable Dumbo, another bad election presided over by the Secretariat. How much shame are you carrying on your head?
Which bad election?
Look at what the president highlights: the murders, the bloodshed, the irregularities, missing names. You came here and assured the country in the run-up to the primaries that all was well, you had a very good register, and this time you've plugged all loopholes.
President Trump survived the bullet during the campaigns. NRM is not presiding over there. This is criminal conduct of individuals, and can happen anywhere in the world. The question is, do you have enough will and enough people or determined people to counter it? When it happened in the US, somebody died, almost similar to Ssekikubo's. President Trump survived with a bullet wound on the ear and the head. It's not different from what has happened here in a number of places. And the question is, when it occurs, as a party, what do you do?
Okay, for starters, you yourself has been a victim. You've been a victim of these machinations. You lost an election because of the primaries that were as bloody as this. Do you imagine it's only getting worse?
Our elections, although there have been a number of deaths during these campaigns and elections, the situation seems to have improved to better elections than the previous ones. I want to tell you that. Because last time, we did not have a party register and everybody voted. In such a situation, it was difficult to tell whether the people who voted and participated in the NRM elections, whether all of them were members of the NRM. Because everybody who came to a polling center and was mobilized by members who wanted to win participated in the elections. Okay. This time we had a voters register, and
without names,
and the president alludes or refers to it with compliment. Even today, the same party register has been used, and to everybody's surprise, very successfully. I've moved to a number of polling stations in Uganda. Others have been put on social media and the media houses, where they used the register, they were reading the names, and people went in the seclusive place and they voted. So, because of that, we had a successful election, and the NRM Secretariat did a commendable job. The death that occurred in Kamuli, the death occurred at night in somebody's home. These were criminals who attacked a sitting member of parliament's home, which was being guarded by a policeman.
Let me hear this from you. Are you walking with your head high after this election?
Absolutely, yes. We have conducted and we have flag bearers. The challenge is that we witnessed notwithstanding. I want to tell you that this election was very successful. The members of the media are arguing as if in every constituency people have died. People are arguing as if in every constituency people didn't use the register. They are arguing as if in every constituency people gave waragi. This is what dominated the press and what has been on social media.
To a scale of 100, how did NRM perform?
In these elections, it was above average.
What is average?
Average is 60. And for us, if you may get anything like 65 and above, this was extremely good performance. Our desire, when we were planning, we wanted to perform at around 90%. When we did the register and we pretested it during the structural elections and the election of the LC1 flag bearers, we knew that we would operate around 80 or 90%. We didn't know that there would be late delivery of materials. That did affect us because initially there had been a rumor that perhaps the elections would be postponed. It was put on the social media. People started putting it in the media and in the press, and it created a problem in the population. And when we started transporting materials, because of the same fears, it was a decision taken by the top management at the party that if we move our declaration forms in advance and people get access to them, there are modern printers everywhere. Somebody will pick the declaration forms and go to NASA Road or to any printing press, and they will be duplicated. So a decision was taken that the declaration forms go late and they are distributed last. Unfortunately, because of the bad election officials in some places, when they received the materials, some did not treat them the way they should have done. That was a problem. But because of us desiring to have justice, the national chairman directed and named the tribunal, which is going to sit and do its work. I would have discussed some of the issues and the decisions so far, but I don't want to prejudice the decisions, and because some of these cases are before the tribunal, but I want to tell you that this election was far much better election than the previous elections. Even today, we even had a more successful election apart from the low voter turnout.
Thank you. Honorable Semuju, there have been quite a number of sentiments around the NRM party primaries. And do you imagine that the president further complicates the situation with these two missives? Do you see any contradictions, or he blends with the sentiment on the ground?
First of all, I am happy to see the Honorable Ssekikubo alive. At least the Almighty has saved his life. The missive of the President and the elaborate explanation by Honorable Dombo. You go back to Kawempe. In Kawempe, in one of the meetings, and I suppose Dombo attended, second meeting, Kawempe was not one of the items on their agenda, but they spent more than 4 hours. In that meeting, Museveni had deployed soldiers, SFC, throughout Kawempe. And he started calling one by one. Lieutenant Semuju, where are you? Where? What happened? Lieutenant Ssekikubo, where are you? Where? And Dombo, you were in that meeting. I know you were. You cannot come here and say you were not. So, Museveni is the one who deploys military in the elections. For Ssekikubo, I sympathize with him, not because he's my brother. He had the Katirima. Finehas is I don't know whether he's a major general now.
Yes, he's retired.
They assigned Washande specifically to go and deal with Ssekikubo. Museveni's son, who is the CDF, he kept warning Ssekikubo, calling him Geyena. Geyena is a hellfire. So this Ssekikubo here, according to Moses Kainerugaba, is Geyena. Even as these incidents in Zimbabwe were happening, Moses was on Twitter celebrating, saying now Ssekikubo will be the one to carry his bag. I don't understand why Ssekikubo doesn't think that he was meant to be treated the way he was treated. But like many NRM people who are in NRM, maybe tactfully.
You want to say their losses were predetermined?
The one of Ssekikubo was. In fact, if he didn't lose, it would have been a miracle. That they have deployed Katerima, deployed Washane, who can't even walk. and each one of them has a military. And then Ssekikubo is speaking about military trucks. For you, you are supposed to have lost that election. That's why I'm happy that they didn't kill you. Because once they have assigned military generals to deal with you, because I don't know what Rwashani will bring to Parliament. Here, when you look at him, can he bring anything apart from his body? But
No,
these are the people.
If he's voted by the people, if he's the
It
people's
does
choice.
not matter. I've been in that parliament. We are 500 people and you can't get quorum of 120. Even when they vote them, they become serious. And Museveni knows that Rwashande, apart from his uniform, maybe that's what he brings in, man. Ssekikubo, who has a value, must get out. First, he has committed many crimes. How can you speak about Museveni's son? So this Ssekikubo, the crimes you have committed, now you are paying. But let me not lose the point. The point is, it is not possible that the military was deployed in Zimbabwe and in other areas without the knowledge of Museveni. I've told you Kawempe was pretending, but when they were in a meeting, he was the one calling. He had a list. Mpererwe called me Major Semuju. Tell me what was in Mpererwe. They spent 4 hours, Museveni calling soldiers, not NRM leaders. So, but for the case of Ssekikubo, this was like a Congo. It was a battle line. They had an enemy to deal with, and they have done so. But like NRM people, Ssekikubo still thanks Museveni. He says Museveni has written, now he thinks, I sympathize with you, and with your knowledge, I know that you know that actually you okay, so let me go to other things.
Giving a media clip. I was with one of the professors in the, a Kenyan professor who is a friend of mine, and he made a statement which really amused me when he watched Ssekikubo speaking. He said, this guy has lost primaries. I knew. You know, it is dangerous to be right in a society where very eminent persons are all wrong.
So yes, Ssekikubo, you had to pay a price. Even the deployment itself, that they have deployed Rwashanda against you, is backed by Katirima, both of them military generals, Toyota, Museveni. So yeah, for you were a target, and for surviving, because, I mean, you could have lost your life in that election.
Okay, Honorable Semuju, I guess you've taken time to analyze and scan through the president's letter. What do you read in the tone of his letter?
But I have attended a press conference with Museveni, with the visiting president, and he switches to Luganda. And the visiting president doesn't know now which language the press conference has taken. Then when he has gone, so that's the Museveni you are dealing with. And I agree with Honorable Mbidde. The intention of these letters is not to correct the wrongs that happened in NRM elections. Because Museveni is going to be a candidate himself. He wants Ssekikubo. They have cheated because Ssekikubo has people behind him. The ones of Rwashande are his. So he now must deal with the Ssekikubo supporters. How do I deal with them? By pretending that I am resolving the problems in Zimbabwe and everywhere they have happened. You will see the same Museveni when both NRM candidates, the one who has won and lost, okay, the one who has been declared and one not declared, he has attended rallies where both of them are, including in Ssekikubo's constituency. I remember one time when Kutesa, I published those photos in the Observer, when Kutesa was forcing him to announce a candidate of his choice.
What was trying to...
And Museveni deliberately didn't announce him. So you will see him now, because Museveni is a very selfish being. At every rally, he will come back. If there are 3, he will bring all of them. He will say, all these are my children. And then he will say, you can go and suffer. As long as the supporters behind you continue rallying behind him. So Museveni is campaigning. He's not resolving NRM problems. But he's campaigning, and one way of campaigning is to give hope to everybody, like he has given to Ssekikubo. And I know Ssekikubo does not believe that there is hope in it. But he also must speak nice, because those who took his votes can come for his life. So now he must speak very well that the president is resolving what? Every constituency, every election Museveni has visited, every rally, he comes with a winner, he comes. But also, again, when we are at the Observer, Museveni goes to Toro. Those night meetings. So he calls Aronda, who was the military CDF. Okwi, Ravone, Mayombo's brother had lost NRM primary. And Museveni instructed the Arondas to go and help Okwi Ravone, who had lost NRM primary, to defeat the NRM candidate. And we wrote it in Observer. One time, people from Muteso were complaining there is a woman who was in FDC. The facilitation and the money that was going to Teso was being taken to that woman. She was former Minister of State. And he was telling NRM people to go to FDC to pick money for campaign. That's the Museveni that you deal with. There will even be a third issue. If you think two are too many, there will be a third one. Because at this time, Museveni wants every person, at least who...
Are the missives explicit enough to explain the problem, or they are vague?
First, he wanted to celebrate. Because he thinks by NRM holding party primary, it is a victory against the opposition. Partly, yes. Because I told colleagues here who are in opposition, with all their problems, you go to areas like Karamoja, 26 MPs. In the last election, there was no opposition. They have cheated all the special interest groups elections, cheated all of them. But Museveni is celebrating, he wants to validate that. So his missives, so they are meant to serve that purpose.
Yeah, but he's now creating a tribunal that seems to be operating parallel to the secretariat. He comes out to say Tanga cannot solve a problem that he created.
In the last election, when sitting MPs lost the elections, he invited all of them to State House and Entebbe. He sat them down and after talking to them, he said, those who want jobs, put your hands up. They did. The ones who didn't want jobs, he said, for you, if you go and contest, you will see what will happen to you. So that will follow. These Ssekikubos are going into another meeting. But he must take them through a process. The process to make Museveni appear like he was attempting to resolve a problem. So this is the therapy to those who have been cheated. And because you have about 1 month for the local government nominations to begin of the Electoral Commission, I am not sure they are going to have time to go and organize these elections, repeat them. But people who are crying, what do you do to them?
Soothe them.
Exactly.
We'll take a break, and meanwhile, we already have a list, a provisional list of the winners in the LC5 NRM flag bearers from the primaries that we'll be relaying shortly after the break. And we'll also be asking, why has violence and other irregularities remained endemic